Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of iGaming Next Weekly News Live. As you can see, me and Nico are here as usual. And I know people have been saying all week, how on earth are they going to cope without Connor, who's on his holidays? But we've only gone and got Pierre Bloody Lindh on the pod, everybody. Pierre,
I don't know if
welcome
I can
back.
live up. Yeah, thank you. I don't know if I can live up to Connor's wit, but at least I bring the looks here today. So
I'm sure you'll manage. We've not seen you for a while. I think this is only your second weekly news of the year. So yeah, do you want to tell the listeners what you've been up to?
yeah, I came back from the States yesterday. So yesterday evening. So I was telling you here before, anything can happen today. I'm right in the haze of jet lag and all that it brings. But obviously we had the Aguiminex New York event the other week. Obviously, happy to see Nico there again. We had a nice little walk through Central Park, me and Nico, to contemplate life and other things. And after that, I went over to San Francisco, took a little bit holiday there with my sister and everything. And actually, I was close to changing my flight this week because it just so happened that it was this game developer conference that's taking place in San Francisco this week, and quite a lot of people from the iGaming industry that is there. One of our partners, Grid.gg, is there, and then I met this like
Mhm.
random guy out at a nightclub in New York. I just remember him because he introduced himself so funny. He said his name was Sean. He owns 3 chickens. He lives in LA, but he's from Canada. And we started speaking. He's a game developer, and he was going to the GDC, so he invited me to go there actually. But then my girlfriend kindly reminded me that it's her birthday. Yesterday basically. So I did decided to not stay longer in San Francisco basically. But yeah, that's what I've been up to. I hope you guys have been fine.
Yeah,
So first of
I
all,
mean,
shout out to your girlfriend as she reminded you that's her birthday. So probably the other way around. It could have been a career limiting move with the kind of booking the couch for quite a while.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been a popular move, that's for sure.
yeah, we've been good. Yeah, we've been ticking away as normal. It was me, Connor, and Nico on last week, and we tried and failed miserably to talk about ChatGPT for about 10 minutes, and then just decided it'd be better off if we waited until you came on the pod so we could have a proper conversation about it. So I promised our viewers that you kind of had the expert insight on this topic. So not putting any pressure on you at all, but do you want to kind of talk about why it's exciting you so much and has been over the past couple of weeks, especially since the launch of ChatGPT 4?
Yeah, like usually when you talk about something that you're not an expert of or whatever, you say like, oh, it's not rocket science, so it's like it's quite easy. But in this case, yes, it is actually like worse than rocket science, whatever. So I don't know about expert, um, but in any case, I mean, as you know, Jake, internally, I'm a bit of a ChatGPT evangelist and one of those people who think that this is going to change the way we work. And so I've been kind of staying up to date as much as I can here lately, but there's so much happening in the field of AI, and particularly these LLMs, the large language models, which is the AI approach that GPT is built on. And as most of you guys will be aware of right now, I suppose, is that GPT-4 was launched about 2 weeks ago, and this is kind of the next generation of these LLMs that are built now that become just smarter and smarter, basically. And one of the kind of main things that stood out in this update from GPT-3 to GPT-4 is that GPT-3, when you gave it the bar exam in the United States, so like the exam that any lawyer needs to pass in order to become a lawyer. Um, GPT-4, it kind of scored in the bottom 10% in the bar exam. Sorry, GPT-3 is scored in the
Yeah.
bottom 10%, whereas GPT-4 scores at the top 10%. Okay, so the GPT-4 is able to basically to become a lawyer by itself. So like, what does this mean? Like, when you study to become a lawyer, you can use obviously GPT to answer the questions for you. Another question to it is like, do we need lawyers in the future? Like, if ChatGPT can do the work better than a lawyer, then why do we need lawyers? It's like, and this is, we should also be reminded that like ChatGPT 3, it was released like 3 months ago. Like, we're still months into this, okay? Which is mind-blowing. Like, in this couple of months, so many things have happened, obviously, and so many things have changed. And I think Microsoft is extremely well positioned here. They're at the right time, at the right place, with the right partner, with their major investment into OpenAI, the creators of GPT. And they have now announced that they are integrating GPT, the LLM model, into the Office 365 suite. So everything from Outlook to Excel to Word to PowerPoint will have this GPT plugin, basically, where use cases include, for example, in Outlook, it can reply to your emails. Okay, so now when you get an annoying email from me, Jake, you don't even need to consider it that much. You can just push the button and you'll have a automatic reply from GPT straight away. It can summarize meetings, so you don't need to be there. So, for example, this call today, you can it can be summarized into a couple of bullet points, and rather than watching this for 60 minutes, you'll get kind of a watered down version of all the brilliant, exceptionally smart things that are being said here today. And in PowerPoint, this is always like, not everyone is an expert in how to create beautiful PowerPoint presentations. But now you'll be able to ask GPT-4 right within PowerPoint, like, please make this presentation look a lot better than what I can make it, basically. And not only the Office 365 suite, but the CRM system HubSpot is doing the same, integrating GPT-4, so you can now create marketing campaigns. For those of us in the industry who knows our good friends over at Fast Track with Simon Lycean, their CRM system has already integrated GPT as well in their CRM to do the same thing. Essentially, you can just create a chat window and ask GPT to create whatever campaign or get you whatever statistic that you need through the CRM system, which means that you don't need to be an expert. You don't need to know the CRM system inside out. You can just ask in a chat box for what it is that you are looking to create. Same with Excel as well. Not everyone is like incredibly, but now you can just ask the bot in Excel to create whatever statistic or whatever data that you are looking for. And another, just I'll end on this note, Jake, as well. So we've seen the kind of evolution from text to chat, which is ChatGPT, text to image, which is Midjourney, where you can create a text prompt and it will give you an image that is relevant. And now what is happening as well is text to video is finally happening now. So there's a company called Runway that is creating the next generation here, text to video. And the other day, someone created an AI-produced sitcom where basically you ask ChatGPT, come up with a script for a sitcom where Donald Trump and Joe Biden are best friends and they are creating a business venture together, and it make it funny. Okay, and then it creates a script that you then feed into an AI voice generator that can mimic the voice of Donald Trump, the voice of Joe Biden. Okay, so that creates the audio, and then you take the script into Runway and you ask it can you produce the actual video to this script, and lo and behold, the goddamn AI is producing the funniest fucking sitcom that you've ever seen. In the pilot episode, Donald Trump and Joe Biden are producing this new hair product called Hair Force One, and from there they become millionaires and everyone's happy. So yeah, that's where the world is going, basically. In short.
Awesome. Thanks, Pierre. There we go. Pierre had more to say on ChatGPT than me, Nico, and Connor combined last week. So I'm glad we waited until you're on, Pierre, to delve into that topic. Air Force One, I'll put that on series record. I think that sounds pretty funny. Heidi in the chat says, I'm really looking forward to our iGaming Next team sessions every week on ChatGPT. So we'll be looking to learn it internally. Hello as well to Bogdan, who joins us each and every week. Good to see you, Bogdan, and to Elizabeth, and to a user whose name I can't see, but says hello from Kenya. So welcome. We welcome everybody in our chat. Please do get involved throughout the broadcast. And a big thank you as well to our sponsor, Playson, and also to Bombay Live. Nico, great to have you with us. I haven't got time to ask you how you are, but I assume you're doing fine. I love your pink shirt. Do you want to take it away with 10 and 5 for us this week?
One additional note from my end. Just asking myself if anyone ever asked ChatGPT when ChatGPT will take over Skynet. So that would be quite interesting to just hear the insights on ChatGPT when it will finally take over Skynet, or the purpose of Skynet, and then we're all getting terminated. So just thrilled to see this one, but we never know.
Okay, I have the answer here for you if you like to. So as an AI, so it replies to you, as an AI language model, I'm not capable of taking over other AI systems or network like Skynet, which is fictional artificial intelligence system from the Terminator film series. My primary function is to assist users in generating human-like based on the input I receive. So that's your answer.
That's a good one. So, taking over with 10 and 5, which are always making time, and touching down on a quite interesting note. And finally, we know that the question Pierre once asked Ian Turnbull about the zone taking or getting into the casino game has now been answered, as the Zone Bet calls on Playtech to bolster Casino Suite. So the Zone Bet, the betting venture from streaming giant DAZN, as we're all aware of, has partnered with Playtech to expand its gaming capabilities. So who would have guessed that DAZN and the Funky Flex crew of Shay Sagev are taking over or entering the casino game as well? So another quite interesting thing is a lawsuit fails short of categorizing loot boxes as gambling. Loot boxes are not gambling for now, as a judge said in Canada, striking down a class action lawsuit filed against Electronic Arts. So I'm pretty sure that in Canada, champagne bottles have been opened. Now we finally know who is the contractor selected to Wynn's new UAE casino resort. So Wynn Resorts, which will host and run the first casino in the UAE, has named its main contractor to undertake the works on the groundbreaking Mahan Island property in Ras Al Khaimah. Guess what? It's neither Emar and or Damek. It's ALEC. So ALEC Engineering and Contracting has awarded the main contract for constructing the casino resort development. Besides this, there have also been 2 trademarks now being reserved, which are Arabian Strip and the Mahan Strip. So now we know that one of these 2 names will be the official name. Then heading over to Brazil, as operators from Brazilian Responsible Gaming built a gaming body ahead of regulation. So last week we talked about, or the week before last week, about the tax regime in Brazil. And now we also see a responsible gaming body, which is called the Brazilian Institute of Responsible Gaming, short IBJR, has been established by Bet365, Betson Group, Betway Group, Entain, Flutter, KTO Group, NetBet Group, Ray do Pitaco, and our friends of the YOLO Group. And now, quite interesting, during St. Patrick's Day, there have been 250 million pounds being spent on the Cheltenham, just on Flutter. So Flutter Entertainment recorded total stakes of over 250 million pounds and 37 million online bets over the 4 days of the festival across their their brands of Paddy Power, Skybet, and Betfair, or as one of my friends from Bet365 always called, so it's always up to the Cheltenham horse racing whether we're having a good year, a nice year, or a bad year. So this is quite doing the trick for all the betting operators. Heading over to Better Collective, as they have unveiled their ambitious financial targets for 2023, as they're expecting to generate a revenue between 290 and 300 million euros, with an EBITDA of 90 million up to 100 million. And just remember that our friends of Evolution usually have an EBITDA margin of roughly 70%, and Better Collective are aiming for a 30% EBITDA margin. So this just emphasizes how great the numbers of Evolution are on a year-by-year basis. Heading over to Ontario, as Coolbet is about to exit the market of Ontario already. So they will shut down their operations on April the 3rd. So we will see which company will also exit the market of Ontario as well. An interesting story on the M&A side, as Sports Venture Holding is refusing to complete King's Entertainment combination. So King's Entertainment has released a statement that suggested that despite months of consistent effort, Sports Venture Holdings is refusing to complete a previously agreed on business transformation. So even on the M&A side, we see things falling apart. BetClick drives a 34% rise in betting revenue growth for Q4 2022. And last but not least, New Jersey gambling revenue is up 10.4% on a year-on-year basis in February. So these are my 10 and 5.
Awesome job, Nico. Delivered very professionally and expertly as usual. I wonder who went on for longer, Nico during 10 and 5 or Pierre when talking about ChatGPT.
that was the shortest, absolutely shortest I could do with ChatGPT. Luckily, we don't have hours there.
Great stuff. So our eagle-eyed viewers will notice that Ryan was supposed to be joining us as well. He actually logged on at 8 a.m. US time this morning to ask for the link. So he got his timings all wrong and has probably gone back to bed. Connor, as we know, is in Tenerife on holiday. I wonder if he'll try to maintain iGaming Next as kind of his own personal travel blog after his Connor's Corner column on New York City, which if you haven't read, I recommend. Go over to the website and have a look. It's complete with a little Instagram slideshow as well that he snuck in there without me noticing. But I should say, our lovely producer Elizabeth asks me to produce topics for Weekly News on Mondays. So a small disclaimer, they are sometimes subject to change, but I promise we will be talking about micro betting a bit later on. But first of all, I thought it would be good for us to touch on the big breaking news from this morning, and that was a £7 million fine in the UK for Kindred Group. So let's start there. The fine was split between two Kindred brands in 32 Red, which is their casino brand, and Unibet, which is their kind of sports betting brand. And as pointed out by our friend Pedro Romero on LinkedIn this morning, I think we've got a graphic for you. This case sort of highlights the importance of adequate interactions between operators and their customers. It's fair to say Pedro is a safer gambling expert. I think he's worked in the operator side for a number of years now, with 888, GIG, William Hill, you name it. So he knows what he's talking about. And if we just look at this in a bit more detail, so according to the Gambling Commission, they said customer interactions logged by 32 Red were superficial and lacked depth after settling for customer assurances that their gambling was affordable. And this approach allowed one customer to deposit £43,000 and lose £36,000 within the space of just 7 days. And these breaches occurred between June 2020, which is obviously historical, but went all the way up until October 2022. So that's actually fairly recently. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts on this news today?
Yeah, if I may, I think the one thing that stands out here, of course, is the fact that Kindred is the company that is taking ESG most serious of any company in the industry globally, and so essentially Kindred is setting out this goal to become ESG friendly, which the most as an iGaming company, the most important point in that is the fact that they need to limit any form of harmful play that is taking place, and the fact that this obviously signaling that their own internal checks are not up to par kind of contradicts the commitment towards responsible gaming that Kindred has set themselves out. I mean, they have made such big commitment that they obviously should be scrutinized even more than other gambling companies. And so I would say that from the perspective of just the optics, this doesn't rhyme well at all with Kindred's ESG approach. That would be my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to make, Pierre. And one of those commitments was obviously their journey towards zero, as they call it, which is where they want 0% of revenue generated from high risk players. Basically, if we look at the latest data, so from Q4 2022, 3.3% of revenue was still being generated from high risk players. They said this journey is longer and more challenging than initially expected, and rulings like today certainly aren't going to make it any easier. But they've also had some kind of criticism from within the industry as well, haven't they? That this goal is actually unrealistic because you're never going to get a pub that will say none of our customers are going to be alcoholics, because that's there are alcoholics whether you like it or not, and you could say the same thing for gambling. Obviously, they can try to combat it as much as they can, but do you think that's a realistic aim, and do you think they'll ever approach the 0% mark? It stayed pretty consistent at between 3 and 4% throughout last year.
Yeah. So the reason why the goal is not realistic, the journey down to zero, which is the fact that in order to get to zero, you also have to accept a certain number of false positives. So the kind of, in order to get to zero, you need to be proactive, right? So the idea with these systems is that when it's kind of notices that a player is potentially playing out of their own bounds, the system basically disallows you from continue further gambling activities. That's what it has to do in order to get to zero. But in order to get to that, you will always have false positives, and so it's not a nice customer experience if the site that you play on abrupts your activity of playing, even if you're not showing any sign of harmful play. And so you have to accept that will be the case. And so in contrast to that, Entain, they launched their ARC system, which is basically a similar type of system, but Entain has not committed themselves to any particular goal of how much revenues they should derive from harmful gambling, because if it's not zero, you can't really communicate any other goal. You can't say like, yeah, we are our goal is to produce 1% revenue from harmful gambling, because that is going to be scrutinized. Like, why 1%? Why not 0? Why are you not doing more? And so Entain hasn't really committed themselves towards a goal for this particular reason, that you also need to take the false positives into account. And I suppose that's why Kindred has been criticized, because while their intention is incredibly good, and it's on a very ambitious goal to basically set themselves out to defeat any form of harmful gambling, it also means that you at the same time have to limit players that are not conducting any harmful play.
Yeah, interesting point, Pierre. We've got a couple of comedians in the chat in the form of Bogdan and Phil Pearson, who does his best impression of Jake Peralta from Brooklyn Nine-Nine and says, "Superficial and lack depth." Sounds like the title of a sex tape. Cheers, Phil. Even when he's not on the pod, we can guarantee his contributions in the comments.
It's good that Phil stands in for Connor's.
Exactly.
I like it. We need someone.
One other thing that really stood out for me on this story was so basically one customer that had been self-excluded from 32 Red was then able to set up a brand new account with Unibet, which are obviously both Kindred Group brands, and they should have had an oversight of that and been able to kind of prevent that from happening, because like many UK operators, and Entain, for example, will have 4 or 5 brands in the UK market, so will Flutter. And it's funny because the Gambling Commission has actually talked for quite a long time about this concept of a single customer view. And that would actually go right across every operator, every licensed operator in the market. And they've put like a couple of sandboxes together to work on this software. But then you think, if one operator can't even prevent that from happening on 2 of their own brands, how on earth are you going to be able to come up with software where they'll be able to prevent it on every UK licensee? I don't see that happening for a little while now after this ruling, personally, but there we are.
Yeah, exactly. It's technical questions. It would be interesting to invite a CTO or someone like that onto the weekly news to discuss kind of, because as you point out here, Dick, it seems a bit. I mean, it seems straightforward. Like, if you have a database within Kindred, even if it's split up between separate brands, it shouldn't be that difficult from the back end point of view to limit one account on all brands, so to say. But if we would have a CTO on, it would be interesting to ask that question, if it's as straightforward as it.
So although I'm not a CTO, I'm quite familiar with German regulation. So if I might take over this little question and answer it, because in Germany we have like 2 systems which are owned and run by the government. First of all, the first system is called Oasis, which is an overall player database, which means as soon as a player has been identified and his identity has been verified as well, as soon as this player resigns or blocks his account, this system makes sure that the player can't sign up at a different operator as well, licensed in Germany. Of course, this is all based on once you hit the point where the player needs to identify himself, because each and everybody can sign up with the batman48@gmail.com. But once you're validating your identity, then the system actually tells the operator, stop, you're not able to sign up that customer. This is the first one. The other system is called LUGAS, which is also a cross-operator deposit limit system, which just makes sure that as soon as a customer, a verified and identified customer, wants to top up his account, then the operator system literally communicates with Lugas, making sure you don't hit serious barriers, and making sure that you keep the €1,000 deposit limit on a monthly basis. So these two systems have been implemented in Germany already. Just making sure that all the licensed operators are just operating in certain requirements.
There we go, Nico. Really interesting. Thank you for that. And the German regulators or regulations have got a lot of stick, as we know, but it sounds like there's something that other markets could potentially learn in the form of, those sort of license conditions for deposit limits and self-exclusion. It has not been the best week for Kindred, shall we say, because they have also been fined by the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board this week. This is our second story of the day, and we'll touch on it briefly. So basically, the regulators dished out $60,000 worth of fines. So we're not talking 7 million here. And Kindred was fined alongside Churchill Downs Racing because they both are basically in partnership to operate the Mohegan Casino in Pennsylvania. And this is again where an online gambling account was basically had been temporarily suspended, but was then able to gamble again. But it wasn't just Kindred that were fined by the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board. It was also, drum roll please, Evolution. Can you believe it? Who were hit with a $7,500 fine. So I don't know if they'll even, that's like a leaf hitting them in the wind, isn't it? Or not even that really. But somebody on Twitter gave us some nice context behind this fine. Basically, it was because an unlicensed employee dealt several games of blackjack in its live dealer studio, and Ali Gunders, as we can see here, tuned into the whole regulatory hearing, the video, to have a listen and provide some additional context there. So he says it was the hiree's first day. The guy was online for 17 minutes, during which he was corrected twice by supervisors, and one player won $35, and this was back in 2021. So, summarising nicely, he says, I guess it shows that it's not easy to run 17 fully regulated casinos 24/7 with no room for error, which is something Evolution has been pretty good at, but these are likely to fall through the cracks from time to time, I guess you'd say, Pierre.
It just makes me think about this old thing, like if Bill Gates, he dropped a $100 bill, it wouldn't be worth his effort to pick it up. And I guess it's something similar here to Evolution, that it's the hassle of even paying the invoice is it's gonna lose the more money than actually paying the invoice, I suppose. But yeah, interesting context by Ali, nonetheless, there to point out that he was live for just 20 minutes, so that's a pretty good minute fine, I suppose, if you break down the 7,500 by 17 minutes. And interesting nonetheless. But it's also interesting that the level of fines in the US is totally different from the level of fines in Europe. I think that's what stands out here, right? Same with Kindred, the mistakes that they did in order to receive this fine is just a totally different ballpark, right? Which is quite interesting. It seems like the hurdles to enter the US market is much higher, but kind of the missteps are being treated a bit more leniently over in the US.
Yeah, at the moment at least. And it's worth pointing out that Penn Entertainment was on the receiving end of the biggest fine from the regulator, which was only $45,000, and that was because basically 5 gamblers that had self-excluded in a land-based venue were still able to gamble with Penn's Barstool Sportsbook brand. So again, that issue of self-exclusion comes up. But sticking with the US, and this is something I really wanted to talk about today, it's a shame Ryan can't join us because I know he interviewed Joey Levy at our New York show, but is better and microbetting, the concept of microbetting. Now, Better is the B2C brand that is led by Joey Levy, and obviously Jake Paul is involved as well on the marketing side and the media side. And because of that, this company's become amazing at generating headlines in the US gambling sector, basically. They got a lot more coverage last week because they announced they were going to launch kind of standard betting markets. So, pre-game results, win results, overs, unders, that kind of thing, as well as micro betting, which it initially kind of pledged to offer exclusively when it launched. And that was going to be its main USP, was we just do micro betting. Now it's branched out a little bit into main markets. So what was your reaction to this news? Guys, we can jump into the details of why they might have done this a bit later. But yeah, what are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, if I may start, I think this is like the classical journey of a company who is taking a very sustainable approach to its own growth, like who is not getting ahead of itself. So basically, what they are doing here is they are approaching this as a multi-stage strategy. So at first, they try to conquer a niche, which is what you should do as a startup. Like you shouldn't, as a startup that doesn't have unlimited funds, you shouldn't try to compete directly with the kind of tier one competitors from day one. Like the more sustainable approach is always to try to find a niche for your startup within the industry and try to own that niche. Okay, and then once you have conquered that niche, that's when you can take the next step and then compete on a broader level. And that's what the Better is doing here. Essentially, they are conquering the micro betting niche. They had an investment. Obviously, they managed to attract like $50 million as in the last capital raise. That sounds like a lot of money, but I think Joey is quite rightly pointing out here. I spoke to him in New York as well. He pointed out the fact that just in the month of January alone, the DraftKings and the FanDuel, they spent like 3 times the capital injection that Better got in just that 1 month, right? So Better, they don't have the capital to confront the DraftKings and the Flutters of this world at this point. And so they are going down that route of basically conquering the micro betting niche, and then from there they have an opportunity, obviously, to build database, to build their product in a much more sustainable way. So they are seeing this as a phase 1 and phase 2. So to me, it seems like it makes perfect sense that they go down that route, and this is just a natural next step for Better to enter another vertical.
Yeah, I would be tempted to agree with that. I think they know what they're doing, and you're right to point out that they are not going into direct competition with those US market leaders. They're looking to do something different. And to be fair to Joey Levy, he said that from the start, because when they launched, he said they wanted to build the most capital efficient and culturally relevant gambling business in the US, which sounds quite grand on paper, but if you actually look closely at what they've been doing, they are certainly going about that. He's also been quite active on Twitter himself, and I think he's put up a couple of explainers as to why they've branched into pre-match markets that I think our producer can share with you now. And he kind of said that the reason they launched exclusively with micro betting in the first place was to prove that they are going to be offering a differentiated experience. Even if they haven't stuck to that, it shows that they are going about things in a different way, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think also what they are pointing out, even now when they are kind of they are aiming to go for parity with other operators in terms of the products that they offer. They are still approaching Better as like a simplified way of betting. So they don't like the fact that you go to Bet365 or any other DraftKings or FanDuel or whatever, and you are met with like an advanced spreadsheet when you want to put down your first sports bet. It's very intimidating. Like, what does plus 170 versus minus 130 mean? Like, difficult to understand if you're not a sports bettor. And so they are still trying to simplify the experience, basically.
Yeah, totally. And I think something that's really interesting to look at the evidence of all of this is their kind of performance in Ohio so far, right? So this is the one US state that they're live in at the moment. Now, our friends at Eilers and Krychek Gaming have done some app testing in Ohio because there were 16 sports books that went live on day one, right? This is what they wrote about Better. They described it as a solid UX, but with a vacant betting experience. So they said, what our testers found is that without game outcomes to bet on, a barren feature set, and a smaller list of sports to bet on compared to other apps, Better ends up feeling vacant. Its UX and in-app speeds receive positive scores, as did the app's aesthetics, layout, and design. Without more to do, though, the app will likely struggle against a field that has deeper markets and more betting variety. So basically, thanks for the graphic, by the way, Elizabeth. Basically, what they've said there is that the app looks amazing, it feels amazing, but it's just super limited because it's only got micro markets on it. So you could argue that by actually expanding into pre-match markets, they've kind of addressed their biggest issue already right off the bat.
Yeah, exactly. And something else that should be pointed out too is that in New York we got the opportunity to speak to Joey, and they are really approaching this differently. And you know, the ENK guys are hardcore gamblers, and so that's what they should report on an experience like this. But we shouldn't forget that Better are trying to approach this from a bit different angle, and so what they want to do is obviously they have Jake Paul as one of the co-founders in Better, but Joey Levy is saying that Jake Paul is just the first step. They want to bring on board another 15 Jake Pauls into the mix and basically attract players that way. And these are like recreational kind of beginner level players, and they want to create a very simplified experience for them. And so similar to the success that oh my god, I'm losing the name. The major crypto operator, Stake. Oh my god, I'm like I said, I'm a bit jet lagged. So like actually the secret to Stake success was the fact that their founders are just very good at marketing towards the younger demographic. Right, they are like right in the middle of the networks. They understand community networking. They understand the power of like the right influencers and so on and so forth. And this is a very similar approach to what Joey Levy is taking here with Better, where they are approaching kind of the marketing from a very similar perspective to Stake.com. And so Jake Paul, he plays into this kind of gambling, wild lifestyle kind of approach, and they're also looking down to attract others as well. So I'm not surprised that the review from ENK is like that, but I think it's on purpose by Better to create a different experience. Now, then the question is just, does players actually want that? Like, do they actually stick around? Do they actually retain players that way, or will they just move on to DraftKings when they get more comfortable in the betting experience and they want a bit more? That's the question remains to be seen, I think.
So 2 or 3 sentences from my end as well, as I actually tested the offerings of Better. Cutting a long story short, didn't convince me that much, because if you just compare the markets of the pre-match market and the regular live betting market with the micro betting market. So micro betting, as far as I can remember when testing the Better offerings, was like, okay, what's going to happen next during an NFL match? Next snap will be a pass, will be a run, whatever. So this is tech intense, right? You just need to make sure that the tech you're using is up and running, because otherwise the player experience will be very, very bad. So if you just now offer the regular markets as well, which just give the operators a little bit more of time to actually process the bets, I'm pretty sure that this played a role as well when they were thinking about, okay, how can we scale up the business? Because if you just focus on the micro betting and your tech just falls short in catering your services by up to 1 million and 1 million plus customers, and you just fall short with offering or with processing the bets, then you don't need to take care of a shitstorm, because this will be delivered to your door for no costs at all. And that's I'm pretty sure why they actually are going for the regular markets as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Nico. I think you're right to touch on technology. For those that don't know, Better is powered by Simplebet, which is a micro betting technology company, also co-founded by Joey Levy. And they're actually they're Better's only technology provider. So I think they get a player account management platform from somewhere else. But in terms of managed trading services, everything else, back and front end, is all built on Simplebet, because they have this really close relationship. And it's interesting to note that actually, in between, since Better launched and since going live in Ohio, it took the company only 7 months to build the product, basically. And they think that was only possible because obviously Simplebet was able to concentrate solely on Better. And had complete control of that entire journey. So, yeah, a really interesting point. The other thing I would say on your point, Pierre, in regards to marketing and this kind of alignment between Jake Paul and this sort of better media thing of wanting to bring through the next generation of influencers, is that's one way that they're going to be able to keep their marketing costs really low compared to the likes of obviously FanDuel and DraftKings. And if we look at the figures again from Ohio, so in the first month, FanDuel spent 168 million on promotional spend in Ohio, to be fair, and got 53% market share, whereas DraftKings spent 87 million and got 27% market share. Now, if we compare that to Better has only got around 0.1% of market share, but it only offered a $50 sign-up bonus to its customers. And perhaps the most important thing to point out here is that it was one of just 2 of the 16 operators that actually reported positive revenue for the first month. Now, it was only $11,000, right? But every little
well, that covers the fine for evolution.
Exactly. There you go. It was only $11,000. I think the other company was Caesars, which has obviously promised to kind of cut back on a lot of its marketing. But this is, evidence of that kind of low to basically next to no cost per acquisition model that they're really pursuing in the US.
That's really interesting, actually, Jake, to hear. But what would be even more interesting is if we can look at the total GGR of Ohio and calculate how much is 0.1% of that total GGR. That would be interesting to know as well at some point. But also, Jake, if you have like a list of the operators, it would also be interesting to see like what other operators are in that region as well of the 0.1%, because obviously FanDuel, Flutter, BetMGM, Caesars are probably going to take up like a lion's share there, right? And the question is if there's if like does this 0.1% actually translate to something meaningful? Like you mentioned, 11.
Yeah. So if we look at it, so the 0.1% was on handle share.
Yeah.
Betway was on 0.07, so just under. So they've got more than Betway, whereas Betfred was 0.3. But if you compare that to FanDuel, 45% of handle, DraftKings 32% of handle, BetMGM is next on 8%. So there's such a huge gap opening up again between those top 2, and that's going to continue into each state, which I think is why companies like Better are actually a lot more sensible, trying to carve out a niche for themselves than they are, trying to dismount that kind of duopoly as it's pretty rapidly becoming.
Well, Joey pointed out that they beat their own expectations and their own targets for the month of January. So I don't know exactly what those targets were, but yeah, $11,000. It's at least it covers the New York trip the other week. So
yeah, that's true.
And just giving you some numbers. Also, shout out once again to Ryan. So our Ryan Butler. So within their first month, Ohio Sportsbook reported 1.1 billion in handle. So comparing these numbers with New York, that out of this handle, roughly 7 up to 10% are then the operator's GGR. So it's in between 70 and 100 million dollars considered as the GGR in Ohio.
Interesting.
So yeah, just as a final note on Better, they've launched those pre-match markets for March Madness. They're likely to have a couple of expensive new state launches in the pipeline as well. I think they've got Virginia to launch soon, and also are likely to be the 7th operator to go live in Massachusetts. So again, those could be expensive, but if they're keeping costs down with those low sort of bonus offers, then yeah, good luck to them. They were obviously a company that was presenting as part of our Hot 6 panel in New York. How did that go down, Pierre?
Yeah, super great. I mean, we had both Joey Levy of Better and also the CEO co-founder of SimpleBet on the Hot 6 as well to discuss just this. They talked as well about kind of reaching parity with other operators. That was kind of the red thread through the Hot 6 discussion with Joey Levy. He talked about this, that they don't just want to be a one-trick pony, so to say. They don't just want to be niched. They want to take this next step now and reach parity with others. And Joey also pointed out the fact that, even though they got this $50 million or $40 million, I can't remember, dollar capital injection, that doesn't go a long way, actually, in this game that they are playing. So it was very much a kind of a summary of what we've been reading in the news lately. Basically, but it was great to have him there. Yeah, they seem to be in good spirit. They seem to be confident in what we're doing, and like I said, the next step now will be how well will Jake Paul convert, and others, like how well will they actually convert from just their own kind of social media power and stardom and so on, and will the players be retained after they signed up as well? These are just like kind of big questions that are still kind of left unanswered at this point.
Yep, that's a nice thread to end on there, I think, Pierre. Unanswered questions. We might be able to answer them at some point in the future, but for now, it remains to be seen. So, Nico, Pierre, is there anything more to add before we wrap up today's broadcast?
Can I give a fun fact about Joey Levy? I realized it today, actually. Quite interestingly enough. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Peter Thiel, but he is like this legendary Silicon Valley investor, one of the co-founders of PayPal, and obviously early investor in Facebook, yada, 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 all the things. He's very controversial, Peter Thiel. He's seen as the contrarians of all contrarians, basically. But Peter Thiel, he formed this like Thiel Fellowship, which basically was this fellowship where he would take like very talented people from college, like kind of like the next generation Peter Thiel or the next generation Elon Musk, and he would tell them, if you drop out of college, I'll give you $1 million to fund your idea. So speaking about being contrarian, right? Joey Levy was one of them. He was part of the Peter Thiel Fellowship, and so I would be really curious to know if Peter Thiel is also involved in Better in some way or shape or form. But that's a little fun fact for you guys today to end on a high note.
Yeah, and Peter Thiel is from German origin. Just another side note as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Parents are from Germany.
Yeah, and they are always considered as the PayPal boys, with Elon Musk and Peter Thiel
The
actually
PayPal
joining
mafia.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Joining this kind of exclusive club, which is pretty much the same like the iGaming Next Mafia as well. So it's all up to
It's
us, right?
around that, yeah. It's a similar level, I would say. Yeah, we just need to become billionaire first, boys. But that's it's details.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't confuse us with the
Exactly.
facts. So all good.
Yeah, we'll match them in other areas. They can't produce as many fun facts as we can, that's for sure.
And the thing is, I'm pretty sure as soon as the casino at Times Square will open up, and Connor will pave the way for each and everybody of us. So, New York Casino, be aware. There will be a big shark approaching ASAP. Latest at iGaming Next New York 2024.
Yeah. We'll have to warn them ahead of that, I think, Nico. Give them plenty of time to prepare. Thanks a lot for joining me today, you two. It's been a real pleasure. A big thank you to everyone that contributed in the chat as well, as always. You make it all worthwhile. A big thank you to Playson and to Bombay Live, and we'll see you at the same time next week.
See you guys.
Bye.
Summer, step into the Mediterranean haven of Malta. Crystal clear waters, ancient ruins, and towering cliffs. The iGaming industry is converging in Malta to take on everything from green courses, the hottest tournament tables, courts, lanes, and of course, the UNESCO city of Valletta for iGaming Next 2023. A week-long festival experience rounding up with the biggest high-end European pool party, Showers, celebrating its 10-year anniversary. Join over 4,000 senior delegates and top affiliates from all around the world alongside industry giants for an unforgettable iGaming festival week. iGaming Next 2023. Contact our sales team for sponsorship opportunities.